Hey everyone, this is Dr. Dennis, aka the Wellness Guy, and I'm here on location at Mercer County State Park. It's absolutely beautiful. If you sort of look around in the background, there's a beautiful lake behind me, miles and miles and miles of trails, absolutely gorgeous. Okay, so the main reason for this video today is to talk about the spine, and this is something that's very complex, and unfortunately, a lot of people in the field are not really sharing why people are still suffering after, let's just say they get physical therapy, they get cortisone injections, they get acupuncture, they get surgery, and they're still suffering years later. And unfortunately, just like a car, as the car gets older, right, 100,000 miles, 150,000 miles, things start to break down. And anyway, the body does the same thing, especially the human spine. Because of gravity and because of all the things that we've done in the past, and I've been 100% guilty of this, where we overdo things or we underdo in life, right? We're either pushing too hard or we're kind of stagnant, and both things are bad for us. So I just want to get into a real simple topic here as to explaining what we're dealing with when it comes to the spine. So just to give you a little background, I was a semi-pro hockey player and suffered a devastating knee injury that stopped me from playing. I was misdiagnosed and such, and so I started taking out a lot of that energy in the weight room. And because of hockey, I was very strong, so lifting heavy, like most guys out there, ego lifting, right? And unfortunately, over time, my spine basically knocked on the door and said, "Hey, you need to stop doing what you're doing." And I didn't listen, like most people. And we all think that we can override these pain signals, and unfortunately, we can't. So needless to say, in 2011, when I was getting my doctorate out in California by LA, my back seized up on me. Hours and hours of sitting, probably not eating right, not training as much, the stress of school, and it was scary. I didn't sleep for 2 months. And thank God we had a Christmas break, so I was able to so-called rest. I tried a few things out there. I tried acupuncture. I tried a few other things. And I did meet up with a very good acquaintance who's a colleague. She's a neurologist out in Temecula. And she basically said, you need to stop doing what you're doing. You need to change how you train, how you move. And I went, yes, ma'am. So since then, and that was, like we said, 9 years ago, nine or so years ago, I changed what I did. And let me just tell you what my diagnoses were, and a lot of them will sound familiar to you. And I just want you guys to hear that it's not just one diagnosis. Herniated disc at multiple levels, severe herniation. Degeneration at multiple levels, severe degeneration. Spinal stenosis, which is a narrowing of the spinal cord. That's a problem because that squeezes the nerves, which provide information to the muscles, which gives us balance, control, coordination. If we don't have that, we fall, we can't move. So that's 4 already. Also, one of my vertebrae, the bones in my back, my lower back, there were fractures in the actual vertebrae. So a vertebrae kind of has the wings on it. Yeah, those all had fractures in it. Big problem. So, in short, most people would need a severe and an intense spinal surgery to basically enclose that area with metal, some form of metal, and a spinal fusion, which I'm sure a lot of people out there have heard of this. So the goal is to enclose a very unstable area. The problem with that is over time, you start to create all these forces because our spines need to move. When we walk, our bones need to do this. If they're fused in position, then we're going to have a lot of other issues down the road. But I just wanted to get back to the fact that with all of those diagnoses that I shared with you, herniated disc, spinal stenosis, degeneration, fractures in the spine, and sciatica, basically where the pain shoots down the back of your backside all the way down to your toes. That's a huge problem. So in short, I had problems walking, I had problems standing. It was horrible. Couldn't work out, couldn't do anything. And I chose not to go what I shared earlier. I chose to go naturally. So this neurologist basically said, I can help you. And I listened. And the first thing she did was dry needling, which the needles are a little thicker than the acupuncture needles. And honestly, after 8 sessions, I was basically 100% pain-free. I was using the pool, which I'll talk about that in another video, as part of the retraining in the brain of how to move. It's not about strengthening individual muscles. It's about changing that program in our brain, because when we have pain, that program becomes altered. It becomes dysfunctional. It's like a virus in a computer, which is a big problem. And that pain program over time gets stronger and stronger and stronger, to the point where for most people it doesn't change, and that movement program in the brain, that dysfunctional, abnormal program, becomes the new normal. And unfortunately it brings a lack of everything, a lack of mobility, a lack of thriving in life. So getting back to the spine, the goal today was to share with you, that you never have one diagnosis when it comes to the spine. So if we just look at one diagnosis and give, let's just say hypothetically, we do a few spinal manipulations, we give some exercises, you may get temporary relief. But again, you're not getting to the root cause of the problem, because it's called a coupling effect. In the spine, like what I'm trying to say here, and I'm sorry that I'm repeating, but I really want to stress this, it's never one diagnosis. So, a herniation, a disc herniation, which is the jelly part of the spine in between the bones, it's a cushioning, right? It's a cushion. That starts to go over time. That gets squished, and there's various ways, different angles and intensities, but the bottom line is that gets squished, that gets squeezed, then it kind of presses on the nerve root, which is really located very, very close to there, within millimeters. That's a big problem. So that's one source of pain. With that, you're going to have problems in alignment. It's never going to be the normal curves that we should have in the spine because of the herniation. But with that, there's going to be some form, high probability here, some form of degeneration in the actual bones of the spine. So now we're at 3 things. 4th thing is that spinal stenosis that I talked about earlier, a narrowing of the spinal canal. So if we look straight down the spine, that's without the spinal canal, we can't move. We don't have anything. That is a information transport from the brain to the nerves, with the nerves, then the nerves give information to the muscles and the rest of the body on where to be, how to work, when to fire, when not to fire. So just to give you an analogy so we get a good picture of this, when someone has a neurological disorder such as multiple sclerosis or spinal cord injury or cerebral palsy, there is a miscommunication, there is misfiring of the signals from the brain to the body and back up to the brain. But in each case, the rate of the information is changed, is altered. The amount of information is also altered. And even the information itself transforms sometimes to something that's not beneficial to us as humans. So there's a lot going on here, but if we look at someone who has any of those conditions, how are they walking? How are they moving? Are they flowing or are they struggling? And that's where disability comes in, and there's a lot of other things that we can discuss. But I really wanted to keep this video very sort of medium, not too long, not too short, but really talking about these conditions that most people have. Spine deterioration starts for most people in their 20s. Now, of course, there's very different levels and intensities of that, but That's kind of where it starts. And you know what? It is similar to a car. You know, a car has issues, you know, sometimes at 20,000 miles, sometimes at 30,000 miles, even if the car is new. So my point today is to really get the information out there. I will be following this up with specific videos of what to do, how to sort of address these things so that you can get your lives back. And I'm a prime example. With all those things I shared with you, and I will do another video where I'm going to discuss my MRI, and which was done in 2011, and talk about each diagnosis. And I'm sure a lot of it will sound familiar to most of you folks out there. So anyway, listen, here's the good news. My goal is to provide hope, support, encouragement, and the proper education. I'm sorry, a lot of the stuff out there across media, whether it's on the computer, you know, via Google or one of the other search engines, or even on a lot of these types of videos, the information is not what it should be. I'm here to bring you authenticity and real information, because not only do I have the expertise as a professional in this field, I have lived it. I have suffered. I've had many, many, many injuries, and I just turned 55 yesterday, and I have zero pain, zero limitations, and I'm thriving. So that's abnormal in life, and I attribute that to the tremendous mentors that I've had in my life. And so Jack LaLanne was one of my role models. I have had the opportunity of meeting 20 or 25 people at that level of expertise across many areas of health, fitness, medicine, and I paid attention. And I also researched beyond that to see what will work, not just for myself, but for others in this world that are suffering. And when you create a system that has steps that are proven, it's about results. So is it something that can be replicated? Yes. And that's my whole point, is where I was, I'm not there anymore. And I've had hundreds of people that I've been able to share this system, and now they're thriving. And it's about a permanent transformation. And listen, wherever you're at in life, here's the great thing. You can always change if you put the work in. So if you like this video, hit the like button, press subscribe, and please leave a comment.